questions and practicing at the same time. But before we do that, I wanted to share with you a material that I recently got and I was asked to share with you guys. So in order for you to practice, and this is good for every section, but especially I would say for reading and listening. I don't know if you've heard of Magoosh. Has anybody here heard of Magoosh? Okay, so this is Magoosh. It's basically a website that contains, material for practicing, evaluations. I think they even teach some classes. So it's a website where you can prepare for standardized tests, totally included. So I will share with you the email and the password so that you can log in and access this website. And you can practice the 4 sections here: reading, listening, speaking, and writing, as you can see on my screen. And it's really good material. It's a great tool, especially for the reading and listening. I think it comes in handy now that we're in the reading section because, reading and listening are automatized, right? So you don't need anybody correcting you. They will give you your scores. They will tell you which questions you got right and you got wrong. And on top of that, they have a video explanation. So if you got a question wrong, then you can watch the video and see why it was wrong, right? And how to exactly approach that question. So I'm gonna send you guys right now to our Zoom chat, but I'll also send it to our group chat in WhatsApp. So that you don't forget, right? Because I know that here in the Zoom chat, maybe it can get lost. But anyways, I'm sending it to. Do you guys have any questions about this? Everything clear? Everything okay? You guys? Then let's continue working on the reading. Right? So we were looking at, yes.
Could you put the link of the URL, please?
Of course, yes. There you go.
Thank you, teacher.
Any other question? Okay, guys, so we're going to continue working on the types of questions and strategies to answer each. Yesterday, we did detailed questions and inference questions, right? So let's start today by doing except, which are, and by the way, we're going to continue working with the official set from the ETS, the Tijucan one. So it's still about the same. Now, except type of questions. Basically, they are going to ask you, they are the opposite of detailed questions. They will ask you about information that is not mentioned or that is not true from the paragraph. So they are not that frequent, but you have at least one per passage, and you gotta answer them by eliminating options. They will ask you for something that's not mentioned. So if you are looking for something that's not there, first you need to eliminate the ones that are there, right? Because it's only gonna be one of the 4 options that is not mentioned. All of the other ones have to be somewhere in the paragraph. So you gotta find them and eliminate them. Okay, we're gonna see. Let's start by answering this question. Walter, could you please read the question?
Of course. Of the following is not mentioned in paragraph 2 as a main factor in the development of Teotihuacan.
Thank you, Walter. So as you can see, it says which is not mentioned, right? Another way it could be phrased would be all of the followings are mentioned except. So if it contains the words except or the words not, then that means that it's an except type of question, right? So I'm gonna give you guys 2 minutes to try and answer this question and we'll discuss later. All right, guys, so what do you think? What is not mentioned as a main factor?
Sí.
Sí, teacher.
Great, does everyone agree? Can anyone tell me what exactly you did? How you approached the question?
Because in the question is asking for the main factors. Then in the text, in the first 3 lines, we could see the main factors are the geographic location, the natural trait, and the obsidian. The obsidian, it was the resource and the potential for extensive irrigation. And in the last line, they only talk about the natural disaster as the volcanic eruptions, but it's no mention, it's not make a mention of this.
Okay, Manuel, great, thank you. So great. So I think the idea is there. First, you read the questions, right? In the question, you have to understand what it's asking. It's asking for, obviously, what is not a main factor, but before knowing what is not, you have to know what are the main factors, right? So what are the main factors of the development of Teotihuacan? So the process is the same. You find your keywords. In this case, the keywords would be main factors in the development of Teotihuacan, right? So we have the word main factors here, development Teotihuacan, right? We start reading. As Manuel was saying, in the first 3 lines, that's where you have the answer. You shouldn't even be reading farther. Why? This is interesting. In the TOEFL test, this is something that comes up a lot. This word, main, is what we call a modifier, right? Because it changes things. To say a factor is one thing, but to say a main factor is another completely different thing, right? So if I tell you, if this question was just asking for the factors, that could be, I mean, that wouldn't be that easy, right? But the question is asking for the main factors. So what are the main factors? The main factors are, as Manuel was saying, 1, geographic location, 2, the obsidian, and 3, extensive irrigation. Those are the only 3 main factors. Then they talk about the role of other factors, but other factors is not the same as main factors, right? So careful with those words. You're gonna find a lot of them. For example, they could say, what is something that Teotihuacan's people always did, right? And maybe in the paragraph, you have something that says, Teotihuacan's people sometimes did this. So always is not the same as sometimes, right? That's a modifier. Main is not the same as secondary. First is not the same as second. Red is not the same as blue, right? So it's different. And then we start reading, we have those 3 main factors. First, obsidian is in option A. So obsidian is mentioned. Extensive irrigation is also mentioned. And location on a natural trade route is also mentioned. The only one that isn't mentioned as a main factor would be C, a long period of volcanic inactivity, right? Is that okay? Do you guys have any questions about this one? No questions on here?
No, teacher.
All right. Well, moving forward. The inference. Let's work on purpose questions. These purpose questions are going to ask you about the purpose or the function or the reason why something is there in the passage. So they could ask you about the purpose of a word, the purpose of a sentence, the purpose of a phrase, the purpose of a quote, the purpose of an example, the purpose of anything really. So why does the author include this in the passage? Why does the author talk about this? Why does the author use this sentence? They ask you about the reasons why the author uses certain things in the passage, okay? So obviously you have to understand the main ideas. You have to see the bigger picture, read between the lines, understand the bigger context in order to answer this question. So let's see. Narciso, could you please read the question?
Yes. In paragraph 6, the author discussed that thriving obsidian operation in order to.
Thank you, Narciso. So the question is, why does the author discuss this, right? Why does the author talk about this operation? So I'll give you guys 2 minutes to try to answer the question and we will see. Okay, guys, so what do you think?
Sí.
Sí.
Yes, do you agree?
Sí.
Okay, perfect. That's correct, guys. Hold on. So yeah, the strategy here is simple. You need to always, 100% of the time, first understand the main idea of the paragraph. Okay, that is key. If you don't get the main idea, you'll be a little bit lost. So remember in the writing, we were saying, for those of you who were in the writing section, when we write, we have to write only about one idea in each paragraph, right? So each paragraph can only contain one main idea, and we cannot go off topic. So everything has to be related to one idea in a paragraph. And in that paragraph, we need to support our idea. So for example, let's say my paragraph is going to be about, my paragraph will be about how animals are cute. Okay, let's just say that animals are super cute. So that's my paragraph. In the paragraph, if that is my main idea, then I have to prove that idea, right? So I'm going to use everything I can to prove it. I can use examples. So I'm going to talk about some certain animals that are specifically cute. I can give maybe data. So maybe I can mention some studies that have been done. I can use facts. I can use quotes. I can quote somebody that said the same. So I can use different things to prove my point. But everything in my paragraph has the same idea, right? I cannot talk about something else. It's the same in the reading section. It's important that you remember that. Each paragraph will contain only one main idea. So your job for these questions is to find that main idea. In this case, what or where would you say the main idea here is?
All this led to increased wealth. No,
All these led to increased wealth.
no.
Where is that?
4. No,
Mm.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5.
Where? Yeah, I'll listen to it. Okay. Yes, I think that's a good summary, because when you say all of this or all of this, you're referring to everything connected, right? Because here, and maybe I would also point out the first sentence and the last phrase, but basically they say Teotihuacan shows a classic picture of positive feedback. Feedback is like retroalimentación, right? Keep that in mind. So of positive feedback among different factors, among different things. So todo se retroalimentaba entre ellos, ¿verdad? The obsidian mining had a positive impact on working, had a positive impact on trade, that influenced population growth, that influenced irrigation, that influenced religion. So everything had a positive feedback among each other. Todo se relacionaba entre sí y tenía un impacto positivo entre los otros factores. And all of that led to increased wealth, right? Led to increased wealth and to more power for the youth. All of that made Teotihuacan such a great city. That is the main idea. Classic picture of positive feedback among all of these factors. And then what is the thriving obsidian operation? Basically, it was an operation that, because of that operation, they necessitated more people, right? They needed more people working there. So they increased their population. And that increased the number of immigrants moving to the city, who then, in that, the elite controlled the economy, and all of these immigrants was like an addition to the labor force, right? So the immigrants were an addition to the labor force, which in turn, since you had more people living in your city, you needed to create more irrigation systems, right? So they had to create more irrigation systems, and all of that led to the development of the city, right? So everything was like a chain of events connected to the other event. And that is the main idea, right? Once we have that main idea, that is always gonna be the object of your option. And before the object, you have a verb. So the verb basically means how this specific thing, in this case, how the thriving obsidian operation contributes to that main idea. Is it a fact? Is it evidence? Is it an example? Is it an explanation? Is it explaining why this is the main idea? So is it explaining why everything had a positive feedback? Is it explaining how? I don't know, is this explaining maybe, or maybe this is a quote, maybe this is some data proving this. What is that, right? And that's gonna be the verb. In this case, this is pretty clear because you have the words for example. So you know that the thriving obsidian operation is an example. An example of what? Always of the main idea. So now you just have to find that in the options. An example could only be give an example or illustrate how. Illustrate, right? Or give an example. But explain why. That is, the thriving obsidian operation is not explaining why anything, right? It's giving an example of something. Or explaining how, again, it's not the case. So it could only be B or C in terms of the verb. Now, in terms of the object, we said that you have to have the main idea. So the main idea here is how several factors influenced each other, made Teotihuacan a powerful and wealthy city, right? All of these factors, mining, trade, population growth, influenced each other to make the volcanic powerful release. Right? Is that okay? Do you guys understand the idea? So basically, look for the main idea in the paragraph and then ask yourself, how is this specific word, sentence, phrase, quote, supporting that main idea, right? How is it contributing to that main idea? Is that okay? Any questions about that?
That's okay.
Great. So now your turn. You will do another one to practice. There was only one of these in the text we were doing, okay, about the volcano. So we're gonna do a question from another text that is about Charles Darwin's theory of evolution. Okay, so this is Charles Darwin's theory of evolution. This is the question. David, could you please read the question? What about you, Victor? Could you please read it?
Sure. In paragraph 4, what was the author's purpose of including a quote that they believed that the complexity of the human eye could have been formed by natural selection seems highly unlikely?
Thank you, Victor. So please take a screenshot of this question or maybe take a picture of it because the paragraph is in the other slide. You ready? Okay. So this is the paragraph, okay? I'll give you 2 minutes too, and let me know what you All right, so what do you think?
B.
B.
B, to prove that a natural selection contradicts the basis of Darwin's theory.
I think that is B.
B, right? The one that I read. Prove that natural selection. Okay, anyone else?
B.
B, all right, to support the claim that natural selection is just a theory and difficult to prove. Anyone else? You guys? So, this is a long paragraph, I'm not gonna lie. But the thing is, you have to try to read until you have the main idea, because not everything is necessary to read in order to understand the main point. So it says, Darwin's theory is that selective breeding occurs in nature as natural selection is the engine behind evolution. So in that sentence, they're just describing what Darwin's theory says, right? Then they say, thus, the theory provides an excellent basis for understanding how organisms change over time. Okay, that could be the main idea, right? This theory provides a good basis for understanding how organisms change over time. Oh, okay, but let's stop. It says, nevertheless, it's just a theory and elusively difficult to prove. Okay, that could also be the main idea. And then they say one of the major holes in Darwin's theory revolves around irreducibly complex systems. And then you can see just by scanning the text that they start talking about irreducibly complex systems, right? I mean, just because they are talking a lot about irreducibly complex systems, that doesn't mean that that's the main idea, right? So what's the main point in this paragraph? What's the main point?
It is just a theory and elusively difficult to prove.
Exactly, great. Because if we ask ourselves these questions, so why do they talk a lot about irreducibly complex systems? Well, because it's one of the major holes in his theory. But why do they mention the holes in Darwin's theory? Because they want to show that Darwin's theory is just a theory and it is elusively difficult to prove. That is the main point, right? That's the reason why everything is being mentioned here. The main point is that it is just a theory and elusively difficult. That's why they include that's why they talk about irreducibly complex systems in the first place. And then they are asking specifically for why the author includes this quote. So let's read the quote. It says, as Darwin himself admitted, to suppose that the eye with all its inevitable contrivance for adjusting the focus for different distances, for admitting different amounts of light, and for the correction of spherical and chromatic aberration, could have been formed by natural selection seems, I free confess, absurd in the highest degree. So, as Darwin himself admitted, so he himself admitted that this is absurd, right? To make this supposition that holds the thing about the irreducibly complex systems is absurd. So why is the author talking about that? Why is the author mentioning that? It's always going to be to support or to prove the point that this is just a theory and difficult to prove, which is the main idea, right? So if we go to the options, the only one that contains that main idea is option D, right? To support the claim that natural selection is just theory and difficult to prove. That is the main idea, the main claim in the paragraph, right? Now, to provide evidence that irreducibly complex systems exist, the focus of the paragraph isn't irreducibly complex systems. I mean, I don't know if if natural selection contradicts the basis of Darwin's theory, right? I don't know if that's ever mentioned. To support that the natural selection contributes to the basis of Darwin's theory? No, because natural selection is part of Darwin's theory, right? So option D, natural selection is just a theory and difficult to prove. Is that okay? Does it make sense? Any questions? Everything okay? Everything clear? Yes? All right, so next one we have paraphrase questions. They ask you to paraphrase something, as simple as that. They will give you a sentence and they will ask you to choose one of the options that is saying the same or that contains the main idea of the original sentence. So what matters here is keeping the idea, okay? Keeping the main idea of the sentence, the original sentence. For example, we have this question in here. Sebas, could you please read the question?
Okay, which sentence is most similar to the following sentence from paragraph 1?
And the sentence is, the theory is based on the assumptions that life developed from non-life and progressed and evolved in an indirect manner. By the way, this theory is Charles Darwin's theory of evolution, right? Now, first tip for these questions, don't read the entire paragraph, okay? Please don't read the paragraph. You don't need to read the paragraph or otherwise you're more likely to make mistakes because if you read the paragraph, then again, your brain works in mysterious ways. So you're gonna be tempted to include in the options or in the paraphrase that you find information that is not here, but that is actually in the paragraph you read, okay? So only focus on the sentence. It says, the theory of evolution, so Charles Darwin's theory of evolution, is based on the assumptions that life developed from non-life, then progressed and evolved in an indirect manner. One tip I can give you, always look at the main verb of the original sentence. What is the main verb in this sentence?
Is based.
Exactly. It's is, right? Around the main sentence is the main idea. Now ask a question that could be answered with this sentence. What is the question that could be answered with this sentence that contains the verb is?
What is the theory?
What's the theory? Are you sure? I think we're missing one more thing because the main verb, sorry, is not only is, right? It's actually is based. It's this whole thing because this is the passive voice.
What
So,
is the theory?
what is the theory?
Based.
Exactly. That is the question that you could ask. What is Charles Darwin's theory of evolution, to be more complete? Because in the answers, you have a lot of theory of evolution, right? So what is this theory based on? That is the question that you could ask. That could be answered with a sentence, right? Do you guys agree with me on that? All right. So you have to find an option that answers the same question. I think that's the best way to explain it, okay? Because the thing is, you're gonna find options that are very close. But what matters the most is not the words, but the meaning. So you have to look for an option that answers the same question. So which is the option that you would consider the closest one to the original sentence?
B.
Okay, are you sure? Would it answer the same question? If I asked, what is the theory of evolution based on? And you answered, based on certain assumptions, we can prove that evolution occurs. Is it really answering the question? What's the main verb in option B? The main verb.
Proof.
Exactly. We can prove. It's not about the same, right? Option B is trying to demonstrate what we can prove. If I ask, what can we prove based on certain assumptions? Then you answer with B, right? So it's a different focus.
Letter A.
Letter A, right? Letter A is the closest one. I'm not saying that it's the same, but it's the closest one. It's the most similar one. Why? Because it says the theory of evolution is founded on and based on our synonyms, right? Founded on and based on our synonyms. Now, the only thing that I gotta acknowledge is not as close is the word evidence versus the word assumptions, right? Because it's not the same. But everything else is great because life developed from non-life basically means non-organic compounds. This is non-life is the basis of life. So life developed from non-life is just another way of saying non-organic compounds, non-life is the basis of life, right? It's the same. Develop is the same as progress and evolve. In an unguided way, it's a synonym for in an indirect way, right? So option A has the same idea, includes all of the important information from the original sentence, and it answers the same question, right? That's what you wanna make sure that you have in your option. Option B, first thing has incorrect information because in the original sentence, nothing says that we can prove that evolution occurs in non-living and non-living entities. The original sentence says nothing about where evolution occurs. In option C, we have his theory holds true. So that's something out of context. Everything else looks fine, but I mean, this isn't about when his theory will hold true or not. And option D says it's hard to make assumptions. So no, the question isn't if it's hard or not to make assumptions. The question is, what is this theory based on, right? Is that okay? Is it clear? Yes? So try to use this technique. Always look at the main verb and try to answer a question. Try to look for what question the sentence is answering. Guys. Now, this is the easiest one. You're gonna love this type of question called reference question. And unfortunately, you don't have many of them, but it's quite easy, you'll see. So we could actually talk a lot about the grammar because this is closely related to grammar, pronouns and nouns. But I don't think you need to review the grammar itself, okay? We're gonna just try with the question and we will analyze with the question. So, Manuel, could you please read the question?
Sorry. The word those in the paragraph 2 refers to?
So usually the word is gonna be highlighted, probably not in yellow, but it's gonna be highlighted. Usually it's in gray, but so you know where the word is, okay? So first thing, don't read the paragraph. Start by reading the sentence where the word is, okay? Start by reading the sentence that contains the word. So you will be reading starting from the capital letter up until the period. Now, if you don't find the answer there, you have to go back one sentence and read the previous sentence, okay? If you don't find the answer. And if you still don't find the answer, you have to go farther back, okay, and read the previous sentence. But like 80% of the time, the answer is in the same sentence. I'd say like maybe 20 or 25% of the time it's in the previous one. And it's really rare when it's anything before that, okay? But you have to go like that. Start by reading the sentence where the word is, then go back one sentence if you don't find the answer, go back another sentence if you don't find the answer yet, and you can go back until the first sentence, right? So I'm gonna give you guys a couple of seconds because this doesn't take that much time, and you will let me. You guys, so
D,
option B,
D.
the traits and characteristics, okay? Everyone agrees?
B.
B, survival? Did you say B, Narciso?
Yes.
Right? Anyone else? So I'm gonna make your life easier and give you one hack. First, what you need to do first, before even reading, I'd say, eliminate options. How? This is a pronoun, okay? This is related to the grammar. I don't want to go there, really, but this is called a pronoun, okay? Does anyone know what a pronoun is? By the way, the word is always going to be a pronoun, okay? It's never going to be anything but that pronoun. A pronoun is a word that can replace the noun, okay? A noun is anything. It's the name of a thing, of an object, of a person, of a group of people, of an idea. Nouns are the names of things, okay? The names of anything you can think of. And pronouns are the words that could replace the noun. For example, if I'm talking about my father, I use the pronoun he, right? So I could say, my father is a great man. He is 70 years old. So I'm saying he is 70, but without pronoun he, I am referring to my father, right? So I'm replacing the noun. That is what you have to do here. They will give you the pronoun, and you will have to tell them what the noun is, what noun it's replacing. So what you have to do first, this is a great hack, ask yourself, is this pronoun singular or plural? Male or female? Or maybe it's talking about a thing, okay? Ask yourself those questions. So is the word those singular or plural?
Plural.
Plural, right? Now, it could be talking about people or it could be talking about things, both of them. So we are not going to say anything about that. We don't know anything about the gender. But only by knowing that it's plural, you can already eliminate options A, B, and C, and D, right? Because the only plural option is option D, traits and characteristics. You cannot say those to refer to the gene pool, right? Because it's an it. So you would have to say this, right? Or that. Same thing for survival. You cannot say those for survival. You have to say that. And for natural selection, you have to say that. The only noun that could be replaced with the word those is traits and characteristics because it's plural, right? So just by doing that, you can already get to the answer. Now, of course, what if you have 2 or 3 options that are plural? In that case, you have to read. So let's read. It says, over time, beneficial traits and characteristics that promote survival will be kept in the gene. That is one clause, right? The noun of a clause we are talking here, what are we talking about? We're talking about beneficial traits and characteristics. So what happens with the beneficial traits and characteristics? They are kept in the gene. But while those that harm survival, so the harmful ones, the harmful traits and characteristics are selected against. right? So it's like a parallel situation. The beneficial traits and characteristics are kept, and the ones or those that harm are selected against, right? So it's like a parallel situation. Ask yourself, what is the noun of this sentence? You have to be looking for subjects, for nouns. So what are we talking about in this sentence? We are talking about traits and characteristics, right? We're saying that the beneficial ones are kept and the harmful ones are eliminated, right? So that's another way. Ask yourself, what is the subject of my sentence? So could it be that this those is referring to this subject? It's not always going to be like that. Sometimes it could be in the previous sentence, okay? But you're going to know by context. So is this okay? Does it make sense?
Yes, makes sense.
Okay, thank you. Any questions so far? You guys? So we are, I mean, I think we're looking at the types of questions at a good speed, I'd say, because we are not missing so many. Maybe we're missing like at most 4, I'd say. And tomorrow we can finish. So that way on Friday, all we are gonna do is just practice, okay? What was I gonna say? Don't forget to review vocabulary. In order to do that, how do you practice vocabulary here? Like for example, in the two I just shared with you in Magush, when you're practicing reading, look for specific words that you don't understand. Try to understand those words by context. And if you can't, search the meaning of the words. Another thing you guys can do that I really recommend you do, and it's gonna help you improve vocabulary quickly, look for study adjectives, okay? That's the easiest, quickest way of improving vocabulary and expanding your vocabulary. Study adjectives and adverbs. You're gonna find a lot of adjectives and adverbs, and I am gonna get ahead and tell you that around the majority of questions, of vocabulary questions, go around adjectives and adverbs, okay? So study adjectives and adverbs. And another tip that I can give you, learn prefixes, suffixes, and the roots of the words, right? Word roots. These are the quickest ways to improve your vocabulary, okay? Prefixes, suffixes, word roots, adjectives, and adverbs. That's what you guys should be searching. You should be looking at maybe some of the prefixes, the most common ones, right? And obviously practicing with context when reading. Okay, you need to work on your vocabulary for reading. Is that okay? Do you guys have any questions now about what we did today?
No.
Guys, then please, before you go, today we actually have to complete 2 surveys. I am sending you the first one now, which is the daily one we complete every day. And when you guys are done, I will be sending the other one too, please. So don't go yet. Okay. Now I will be sending the other one.
Teacher,
Yes, Victor?
I have a question. How we can access to Magoosh?
I sent you guys the link. So it's in the Zoom chat, but I'll send it again. And you have to log in first. Oh, that is the email, and that's the password. Anyways, I will be sending a message in our WhatsApp group. Right. So that you don't lose it. Okay.
Okay. And also I have one question. You attach at WhatsApp group the link to YouTube channel. That is will be the recordings of the classes.
Exactly. All of the recordings of every single class will be there. So you can watch them or catch up or review anytime.
Also the yesterday class.
Yes, I think it's not up yet, but I'm gonna upload it soon.
Okay. So all will be there.
Everything will be there, yes.
Okay.
Any other question? All right, guys, then thank you so much. I'll see you tomorrow. Night.